back to the food that looks after you series. Today I'm making something incredibly simple, satisfying, humble and also very affordable. And I'll be using just a handful of ingredients. Genuinely, if you take a look, I've got a tin of chickpeas, some tomato puree. I will be using a couple of cloves of garlic, some rosemary and pasta. These are orecchiette, which means small ears in Italian, but you can use any short pasta. It doesn't take a long time to cook and it is very creamy and smooth in texture. So I've got a couple of cloves of garlic. I'm cooking for 2 people. I'll give them a gentle crush first using my knife. Rosemary, and here comes my very first tip. I'm chopping mine in tiny little pieces, almost like sand. Can you see? Look. And that is because I think it adds a tremendous amount of flavor to the dish. You can leave it whole and just cook the sprig with the olive oil and the garlic in a moment and then take it out if you like. But I would recommend that there are only a handful of ingredients and this is a key component in my view. But you take it out if you wish. This is a 1-pot meal, so ensure that your saucepan or pot you're using is big enough to hold your pasta. And I'm going to add a generous amount of olive oil. And I'll turn this on, but on a medium setting. I'm going to add my garlic next and also my rosemary at the same time. Very important to leave the temperature on a medium setting and allow the flavor to build gently over 2 to 3 minutes. You want the garlic and the rosemary to release all of the flavor with the oil, but if you find that your setting is too high, just turn it down a little. Do not allow the garlic to get brown, otherwise it will become bitter and it will not be very nice to taste. And I can add my chickpeas next. I'm going to leave the water in my case because it's got all of that chickpeas flavor and it will make it even more velvety. But I'm going to turn the temperature slightly up as I want the chickpeas to get the temperature relatively quickly now. If you want to drain the water, by all means do that, no problem. You don't have to keep the water. More often than not, if I'm cooking with chickpeas or beans or anything that comes in a tin, I always use the water, unless I'm making a salad, for example, for the very reason it's got that velvety texture and adds a degree of smoothness to your dish. If you have never tried before, try once and you'll see what I mean. And let me know what you think. So now that everything has reached temperature, I'm going to add some tomato puree, a good tablespoon. As I'm using orecchiette today, and it's not a pasta I cook with very often, I'm measuring 550 milliliters of water which I just boiled. You can always add some more water later, but I'll start with 550 milliliters for now, and it goes in with the rest. Water is hot, so obviously it will soon reach the boil. I'll place the lid on, I'll turn the temperature down on medium once again, and I will leave it to gently cook for 5 minutes, and by now your kitchen will smell like a Mediterranean kitchen because the smell of the olive oil, the garlic and the rosemary and the chickpeas will take over. So I'll see you in 15. One thing I always find interesting and fascinating about dishes like this is how much flavor people were able to extract in Sicily when money was short. If you think about it, it's just a handful of ingredients, but so simple and so delicious. I'm now removing about 2/3 of the chickpeas and placing them inside a jug, and also I'm going to pinch some of the liquid like this, maybe 3 little spoons like this. This is a fairly modern thing, by the way. My mum or my nanny coming to that, she would have not done this. They would have just put pasta straight here. But I think modern tastes have changed and we like smoothness and silkiness, so I'm going to blend this. I'll leave the rest to continue cooking, and using a blender I'll just whiz away. And then you can see I've made some chickpeas cream. Now the pasta is over here. I can put that in with the water. Sorry, the stock. And yes, this is another 1-pot meal, so I'll be cooking the pasta alongside the chickpeas. This is because, as I said before, the starches will be collected in the sauce, but also the pasta will be absorbing a lot of the flavor from the sauce. You can, if you want, cook the pasta separately in hot water and then add it at the end. But honestly, this tastes a lot better. The one tip, another tip, is do not have the temperature too high. Again, this is not like if you're boiling pasta with water. You are gently allowing the pasta to collect that beautiful flavor from the chickpeas and the sauce at the same time as releasing the starches. In my case, this will take about 10 minutes because orecchiette take that long. But if you're to cook macaroni or conchiglie or anything else, the likelihood is that it will take less. Just take a look at the packaging and follow the instructions. And one thing I've learned to do, by the way, is to place the lid on and it will cook a little bit faster. I'm about a couple of minutes away from the pasta being cooked, and I have realized that orecchiette do absorb quite a bit of water. But before I add any more water, I'm going to add my chickpeas, which I have whisked earlier. I'm not sure if you can hear the noise. Hopefully you can if I get closer with my mic. Absolutely wonderful. I love it. So let's have a look. Let's have a look what the density is like. Yeah, I might have to add a little water. Not a lot though. Yeah, just top it up. So keep an eye, but just enough to get the pasta to finish cooking. I think that should be enough. And I'll mix it out without the lid on so that I can regulate its consistency. Sometimes I watch the odd video and I see people are using cream to make a dish creamy. And you can see why this is food that looks after you. I've made a creamy dish, look, without using any cream. But of course, if you prefer yours to be more liquidy, just add more water. As I said, you can adjust it accordingly. And here is my final tip. I'll turn this off and I'm going to remove it from the heat. I will leave the lid on for about 2 minutes and this will do some magic. One last touch before I serve, a little pepper, assuming you like pepper. Quantities, as always, to taste. And if you can see what has happened here, beautiful and creamy, just as I wanted it. But of course, before you finish, a compulsory touch of olive oil at the very top, which will complement the flavor. Why not? You can also add a little rosemary at the top so that it brightens up the color slightly, and it's ready. Of course, you can also add some Parmesan cheese or pecorino if you like. Entirely up to you. We are entering the area of personal choices. I'm going to leave it as a vegan dish for me today. Clearly vegetarian if you're adding Parmigiano. But try it like this because actually you get to really appreciate the true flavors of the chickpeas and the very basic underlying ingredients which make this dish. Let's have a look. As I said before, it never fails to amaze me how simple handful of ingredients can taste so delicious. Honestly, so good. Hopefully you make it, and if you do, drop me a line and let me know what you think, and keep the water from the chickpeas. Honestly, make a big difference. Thank you for watching and buon appetito as always. Ciao ciao.